All right, welcome back. Apologies, we had some power hitch, but we are back now and we're proceeding.
Sure.
Yeah. So we were talking about the Canaanites and what actually led God to judge them.
Sure.
And we've noticed that they were actually a very sinful nation. They were hardened in their hearts, just like Pharaoh.
Hardened his heart.
Had hardened his heart.
Yeah.
And so he had to be destroyed together with his sin.
Sure.
And you also mentioned an important point that it will be the case with in the end of time.
Sure.
When sin will be destroyed, and those who have clung to their sin will be destroyed with the sin itself.
Sure.
Yeah, and also something good to notice that the hellfire was prepared for the devil and his angels.
Sure.
Yeah, so the hellfire was not prepared for anyone, for human beings. Yeah, but those who will have rejected the salvation will be destroyed in the hellfire with the devil and his angels. Yeah, but another important theme that we realize is that God is the judge. I was just giving a little thought on the definition of my idea of judge. And I noticed that actually I have had a very skewed idea of God as of just judgment. For me, judgment is weighing who has the best argument. And you from the human lens, you actually don't know. You don't know who is innocent.
Sure.
So you depend on the lawyers and their arguments and maybe evidence and stuff. But God being a judge is actually way more than I had imagined, because He is all-knowing, and because He is because He is just. He is righteous. And human beings, we are not righteous.
Sure.
But God is righteous. So God being a judge, you can try and understand it from what we know, from what we experience here on earth. But really, God's way of judgment is higher than what most of us think.
Sure.
Yeah. Maybe a question to you. Why do you think God was judging, or why do you think God was judging the Canaanites, and why do you think God has appointed a time in future to judge the world?
Yeah. So first of all, when God appears to Abraham and He tells him that I have given you, your children or the people who will come after you shall be enslaved. And for 400 years, and after that, they shall be taken out. What God was doing was putting it in human terms, that I am not bound by time. It is not that God caused whatever happened to the children of Israel, not the Canaanites in that case. God had there's something we call dispensation. In that dispensation, God had given them grace for them to find time to repent. But then later on, we see they still harden their hearts. And God as the righteous judge, for God to be vindicated, and for those that are harmed by the actions of others through conviction, that's how they are compensated for the harm or the hurt that they got. And for all that to happen, judgment is the way through which that happens. And God, as our righteous judge, God is the lawgiver, and is the one who stands right to mete out judgment upon them that break that law. And so God, ideally, was supposed to do that. Because we as human beings cannot mete out judgment.
Yeah.
Because we ourselves are under the law. We cannot be justified to judge. The same thing Christ was telling the people, that you cannot see the log in your own eye, but you're seeing the speck in your brother's eye.
Yeah.
You go take out the log out of your eye first, and
So
then
that you can see.
yeah, and then you can see your brother's speck better.
Yeah.
But then in 2 Timothy chapter 4, we are told that God is the righteous judge. We trust that in his character, he is proven to be good and is proven to be just. Then we can therefore trust in the judgment that he gives out, in as much as sometimes we cannot see the full picture. In Isaiah 50 says, my ways are higher than
Than your
yours.
ways,
You
and
cannot decipher why he makes some decisions. But because he has proven legitimate, like he's proven himself to be good, to be a good God, to be a loving God.
Yeah.
He's even sent his son to die for us. Then we can trust that whatever he did was right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. And you know, God's judgment always comes after a long period of grace.
Sure.
A long period of grace, just like with the Canaanites and with the many instances we find in the Bible. When we talk about God's judgment, we can never fail to talk about His grace. And I think you know, I was reflecting again. Nowadays, you maybe board a bus from here to town, and you'll see at least one billboard, and you know, in the advertisement they have a naked, somebody naked, you know, and that is to me, that is how wicked we have become.
Sure.
I was talking to my brother this week. We're discussing how dress has actually changed, has evolved, and how growing up, I couldn't see people actually wearing trousers, like ladies wearing tight trousers. Yeah, and you know, nowadays it's like a norm.
Sure.
So just to say, there has been a lot of wickedness in this last age. You know, killing nowadays is almost like a norm.
Sure.
And so many bad vices, so many vices, but despite all those, God's grace is still with us.
Sure.
So where sin abound,
Grace abounds the more.
the more, yeah. But then, you know, grace is not a ticket for us to
sin.
to continue in sin.
Yeah.
But it's an opportunity for us to, you know, reflect on our lives and, you know, an opportunity to make things right with God.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's also important to understand that this grace is limited.
The probation clauses.
Yeah, in the final end, God will not just sit and watch.
Yeah.
When Christ tells us that even as the times of Noah were, so shall it be in the time of the end, even as the time of Sodom and Gomorrah. When the wickedness of man is so bad that it forces God, it actually forces God to close out on his grace window, then it's something bad. It even hurts God. God actually says, I do not please in the death of a sinner. Because ideally, you're the only kind that he has. Every person has their own personalities, their own identity in God. And if God loses that, he cannot find a replacement. Because it's total destruction. You are totally blotted out of existence. And it hurts God. Yeah.
And also another maybe contrast to draw from, you know, human judgment and God being the righteous judge. You know, in the context of the Holy War, the judgment of God is not for self-aggrandizement. You know, it's actually delivering justice. Yeah, it's contrary to, you know, what we might think. You know, I'm doing something so that I can feel good.
Sure,
you know,
like World War. Like
yeah. Well, when you go back to the story of the Canaanites, you know, God's plan was not to, you know, destroy them. As you have said, sometimes it forces God to do some things that are not his ideal or His plan.
Yeah.
And actually, it's the same with the Canaanites. But let me ask before we proceed further. The land of Canaan, who did it belong to? Do you have the context? Can you give us the context of the land of Canaan, where it began?
Yeah, actually, the people who, most of them were Semites. And then they were also part of, Israelites, the Israelites then, plus the people who used to stay there were of a Semitic origin. So if you follow the genealogy from Genesis chapter 5 onwards, you see how the break happens. And the people, like until when Abraham is called, to the point where Joseph moves on to Egypt and the family goes there. They are given a land in Geshom. Then the Israelites became a great people. See, even before they got to Egypt, they stayed in Canaan, but not as owners of the land. They stayed in Canaan as sojourners. And that's even why when Hebrews 11 talks about the champions of faith, it says, look at someone like Abraham. They were in Canaan, but not as owners, but they were sojourners. The only thing they owned was a graveyard, Machpelah, where he buried Sarah. That's the only ownership they had of the land. But then God had initially promised that after, immediately, like finally would have to mete out the judgment upon the Canaanites. But that land, God decided to give it to the Israelites, to brood the nation there, and then from which all the other nations now would learn of God and come to Him. If you look at the world then, that was more of a central place, connected Africa, like it connected Asia, Europe, Africa. Like it was, I think is it in Exodus where they say, even by God choosing you, you are placed in a strategic place that the nations would learn of you. It's actually true because if you look at how Christianity moved, it moves to Europe, and then it flies over to the western parts. Then it trickles down to Egypt, to Africa. Like it was a very vantage point.
Even the Muslims have that argument that, because Mecca is not very far from...
Sure, like it connects. You can actually, if someone decides, you can move through the land masses via vehicle. The only place which will bring some sort of issues is the canals.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but if they're filled, you can actually traverse the entirety of the eastern part and the northern parts of the world just through that route.
Interesting. And so God's plan was not to actually, kill all the Canaanites.
And then what's interesting is that God didn't have something against them. If you look at the Israelites, in Genesis chapter 15, when God promises Abraham the land, He tells him, I'll give you the land from the river of Egypt to the river Euphrates. He exactly gave them that. But if you read 2 Kings 25, when the Israelites rebel, God took it back. When Nebuchadnezzar comes, actually God says, the land that Nebuchadnezzar took from Jehoiakim at that particular point was the same measurements, was the same landmarks which God had pointed out in Genesis 15. So what is true is that you shall reap the consequences for your sins.
And I've actually remembered another interesting thought. That the morals of a nation will not is never higher than the morals of their gods.
Sure.
And that is why that was one of the reasons that God had to destroy everything, including the gods, so that these people first they were to know, and they were to know the only true God and worship Him. And destruction of this was to help them, to remove any other barrier for God to be visible to them.
Sure.
So God's ideal was not to destroy them, but to displace them, or drive them away.
Sure.
And that tells us something about God's character. That God is not interested in destruction. When you're talking about holy war, we need to actually read it in the context of the overall theme of the Bible.
Sure.
And for me, I see God as a God of mercy, but also there's the idea that we're introduced to, that God is not interested in killing, but he is interested in saving, although he also doesn't abhor sin, so he has to bring judgment over sin.
Sure. Yeah. But then it's also important to notice that in as much as the lesson speaks about dispossession of the Canaanites from the land of Canaan, there's some parts which it appears as though actually God says that you shall totally destroy. For example, in Joshua, when you look at Ai, even Jericho, God tells Joshua, fully destroy the people,
everything.
Kill even the cattle,
Yeah.
and have no association whatsoever, whether through marriage or through making treaties. Have none of that. Actually, the reference is there. If you look at Deuteronomy chapter 7, from verse 2 to verse 5, God starts by saying, fully destroy them. Then he goes ahead to the children of Israel, and then you can destroy now their high places, the altars, the gods. That brings out a very important fact, that most of the Christendom today has shadowed this aspect of God, that God finally, like God ultimately releases his wrath on those who persist in sin. God won't always be about fairies and angels. Like God won't always be about grace. You know, people try to justify their actions by saying God will forgive. If I've just done this, God will forgive, but it won't persist for long. Yeah, like if we understand that there's an actual judgment and there's an actual point in time where we'll have to take up the consequences of our actions, then we'll have some form of dread for sin, not for God, but for sin. Yeah, because the thing which causes God's wrath to be manifest is sin. Yeah, it's not his people, it's what they do. Yeah. But then for him to clear out what they do, people have to go. if they don't allow themselves to be saved.
Yeah. And you know, sometimes it sounds brutal that God instructs that you destroy even the cattle, you know, and the children.
Sure.
And you know, sometimes one thing I'm realizing about this from studying Joshua, just the journey of the Israelites, is that God doesn't destroy until iniquity is filled. Until, you know, in the prayer of Abraham, Abraham prayed even for 10 people.
10 people, yeah.
You know, but still there was not found 10 people. You
Sure.
see, so that is to prove that before God sent judgment on Sodom and the nearby cities, iniquity was already full. And see, when God says, destroy everything, it means the sin is rooted in every other space, including the children. And so judgment has to fall upon every other person in that land.
It's actually also... Oh, sorry, you can go on.
Yeah, I've just noticed that there's also, God is in the business of revealing himself to us, but also revealing ourselves to ourselves, if you know what I mean. Yeah, so he orchestrates events that reveal our character to us, so that we may see our need for a savior, but also reveals himself to us. And there is a response. There are people who actually heard of the dealings of God and accepted this God. The people like Rahab, and were saved. Then there is this category that they ran to the fortified cities. They say,
gods,
to their gods. Also your God does that. Let me also go to my God. Actually, our city has got walls. Maybe our walls will shield us from this. And it gives me that concept also is in line with the idea of Babylon being destroyed. Babylon is destroyed because people have put their trust in themselves, and they have not put their trust in God. And that is what Revelation 17, I believe, writing, should be 7.
18.
18. Babylon is fallen. And Revelation 80 talks about judgment on Babylon and how it is destroyed. One of the key themes of Babylon is their trust in themselves and not in God. Yeah. You had something to say.
I believe the point you made is very valid. That God allows the full fruition of sin before he finally totally destroys it. The same is true even for the devil. Sometimes people ask, why hasn't God destroyed the devil? But God has allowed the devil to still persist in that sin so that it grows to its fullness. And when God now finally stands, it is full destruction of whatever it has had. But then God is a good God. For them that are hurt in the process, for them that are maybe innocent in the process and they are affected by that, God will surely compensate. God will fully compensate, and God knows how to do that. A good example is Job. When God gives back, it clears away all the tears. It fills all the void.
Yeah. It's actually, it reminds me of, a few weeks ago, was it maybe 1 week ago, when we were talking about the great disappointment? 2 weeks ago, and William Miller.
The Miller
1844. So he wrote